Listen, I'm Jack Dempsey, there's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious, I want your heart, I want to eat his children. I was gonna rip his heart out, I'm the best ever.
And welcome to another edition of the Boxed Out Podcast. This is Mo with you. Just here to talk a little Ortiz versus Scott, or hashtag Ortiz Scott. And you know, there wasn't much to offer about this fight. It was a fight that many expected Luis Ortiz to dispatch of Malik Scott. Certainly Deontay Wilder did so in knocking Malik Scott out in one round. But that fight came with a little bit of controversy. A lot of people thinking Malik Scott took a dive. It could be true, it could not. Who knows? All it says in the books is that Wilder won by first round KO. And speaking of dives, if Malik Scott didn't take a dive in the Wilder fight, he definitely took several dives to the canvas in this fight. Because for about the first 5 to 6 rounds, he hit the canvas more than he landed punches or threw punches. And you know, it's these type of fights are a bit disappointing. You hope to see more action and more compelling television. Now Scott obviously is a boxer and a mover, and he just flat out didn't come to win this fight. He came to move. He came to hold when he could. He came to survive. And you know, that's fine. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's not fine. Especially when you're moving around the ring and you're sticking your tongue out and you're shaking your head, but you're not really attacking with any purpose. Now, towards the second half of the fight, he did try to actually throw some punches, throw some meaningful punches with some force on them. But I mean, by that point, he was down by like 7-8 rounds. He lost every single round, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure that Harold Linderman scored it not 12 rounds to 0, but 24 rounds to 0. He probably gave extra credit to Ortiz. And, you know, just watching this live and messing around on Twitter, you can already see some of the backlash that Ortiz is getting. And some of it might be fair, you know. He did headhunt a lot. He was just looking to set up that left hand. He was just pawing a lot with the right hand. Now, obviously, that's a classic move in boxing where a guy will paw with his jab to try to blind you and to really line up his left hand, or, you know, straight right, whatever, whether you're southpaw or conventional. But it wasn't working. Scott did a good job of, you know, covering up and not allowing Ortiz to land flush headshots. And we've seen similar fights. I mean, we just saw a fight like this at the end of October, if you recall, when David Lemieux fought Christian Fabian Rios, in which, you know, I mean, Rios didn't come to win, and he had a respectable enough defense and enough toughness to last the whole fight. I compare this to, like, you know, just like any other sport where, you know, teams aren't good enough to win, but they're good enough to keep you from, like, blowing them off the field or running them off the court. Yeah, so there's not much to go with from this fight. Ortiz looked frustrated. He looked frustrated early on the fight. Maybe the first round he's like, come on and fight me. So that, in retrospect, you know, if we go back in time, should have been a sign that, hey, you know, maybe this is going to be a pretty crappy night, a pretty unappealing fight. Now, this is his first fight back since he fought in March. He was the main event for the same card, and it was in D.C., right, in Washington, where Vargas and Saddam Ali fought. So this is the last time. That was the last time he was in the ring, and Maybe it was some ring rust. I don't know. But what I do know is that Tony Thompson also did his fair share of movement, and that fight went a lot longer than expected. I mean, I think from this destruction of Bryant Jennings, I think the hype was very high and the hopes were very high for Ortiz to just come out and destroy people. And people will adjust. People see that he has power and he has strength. He's a fearsome puncher. So guys will move. And Thompson moved and Malik Scott moved. And Thompson was a lot older. I think Thompson's in his 40s, right? I'm pretty sure. Malik Scott, I don't know his age. I'm assuming he's around 30 years old. But a younger version, and the guy just electing to move and not getting knocked out. Now, that's great in playing spoiler, but, then comes the point like, well, are you coming to win? What about trying to win the fight? That would be great for your career, right? Not just coming on HBO and shitting the bed. Speaking of HBO, they did spend a good portion of the fight just shitting on the fight. And, I get it. I mean, there wasn't much of the fight to call. There was very little action, and Ortiz was the one initiating nearly all of the action. Now, Scott did some counter punching. He did land a couple of shots, but of little consequence. They didn't phase Ortiz at all. I think he's just more annoyed than anything. And, I always say, like, performances like this, maybe a performance like this is a good thing. It'll bring his stock down a little bit for Ortiz. Maybe guys are more likely to hop in the ring with them. Just like when, Golovkin was exposed by Brook, maybe that'll get guys to get in the ring with them, and see, hey, we can do this. We can compete with this guy. So maybe this will open up the doors and Ortiz won't look as scary. So, but the thing about it with Ortiz is, the movement bothered him. So maybe if you hypothetically matched him up with Deontay Wilder, maybe that would give him a little bit of an issue, because I'm sure Wilder would move a little bit and use his athleticism. But he would be coming back with a lot more offense, which could be troubling. So, I mean, you can give Ortiz crap for this. I mean, I guess he should have got him out of there. I think I'm just more giving him the benefit of the doubt, because Scott really, really, really moved around a lot. And yeah, but one thing you can give Ortiz a little crap about is that he didn't go to the body nearly enough. Yeah, he needed to go to the body. If he was going to bring this big lanky tree down, he was going to have to start at the roots. He's going to have to start at the roots. I know you like that analogy there. And chop that tree down, and get that axe out. But he didn't. And, you live and you learn. And it's good, if he's off for like 8 months, it's not a bad thing to get 12 rounds in. Now, the even better thing for Ortiz is that he'll be back. He'll be back. He's on the undercard of Joshua Molina. That's December 10th. So he'll still be in fighting shape, and he'll be sharper. And I'm sure they haven't got an opponent. I'm sure Eddie Hearn will get somebody where he can just plow through him and knock him cold out, because, a fight like 1 month later, you're not going to be expecting too much of an opponent. And Eddie Hearn put on Twitter that he was happy that the fight was over. So he's happy the fight was over, and I'm sure he'll find somebody where it'll look spectacular or good enough. Not this, but in terms of how this affects the landscape of the heavyweight division, it doesn't really. I mean, it was a stay busy fight. Ortiz won. I mean, he won all 12 rounds, so how much shit can you give him? I guess you can for not getting knocked out, not living up to the moniker, not living up to being King Kong. And again, you would have liked to see him go to the body more. And don't get frustrated and tell a guy to fight you. Go cut the ring off and put it on him. And that was another thing that he didn't do. He didn't put together his punches well. It was ones and twos. We need 3, 4, 5 punch combinations. But you got to look at it too. He's a bigger guy. He's a heavyweight. He's trying to cut the ring off too. And he's probably in his 40s. Knowing the whole situation with some of the Cuban guys that come over with their birth certificates, he might be a lot older than 37 years old. So maybe just it's not in him to do that. But he looked to be in pretty good shape. He wasn't huffing and puffing. But maybe he just got frustrated. So, yeah, I can see. I've seen already on Twitter, Tyson Fury would handle him and his movement would bother him. But, Tyson Fury's not even fighting, okay? He didn't want to fight. He ain't fighting this year. He might not even be back. He said he's going to retire like 1,000,000 times within the last year, so that might not even be a factor. And, Wilder, of course. I think Wilder, a lot of people don't put much stock in Wilder, but I think Wilder is a top heavyweight. And, yeah, I think he'd give Ortiz issues, just like I think Ortiz would give him issues. But in terms of like a fight with Joshua, would this make Eddie Hearn more comfortable with putting him in the ring at this point? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think Joshua's style would be a lot better because Joshua doesn't move a lot and needs to just stand and fight. Whereas a guy like Fury would move around the ring a lot and probably be a little bit more effective in trying to spoil the fight and, counter and box well enough to actually get scorecards in his favor. Who else could he match up with in heavyweight? Like a Povetkin, Stavern. Those guys don't run or move. Those guys come to fight, so I don't think this is really too much of an indictment on Ortiz. And he is fighting next month, so at least he's trying to stay busy, and hopefully they can get him a more significant fight in the new year. But, this is just a small little recap, a quick reaction of just a quick reaction to this fight. I mean, I'm surprised it went 12 rounds, dude. I'm really surprised. Malik Scott threw 155 punches in 12 rounds. Rayfield wasn't too happy with this fight. They go 12 miserable rounds, 12-0 Ortiz. Scott never tried. Held a few weak counters. Held and a few weak counters, average throwing 13 punches per round. So, there were a couple of knockdowns. So, that's one thing to, get excited about. But, Scott, he really tried to, it looked like he tried to escape out of this fight early on. I mean, he took a shot, I guess, to the side of the head. I guess he was saying they're rabbit punches, which are, some of them were borderline, but it looked like he was trying to get out of the fight early. But then I guess he figured, hell, it's 6 rounds. Let me just stand up on my feet and let me try to keep fighting. Which I don't want to just accuse a guy of not trying to take a dive. I mean, that's a bit extreme. It is possible, but that's what it looked like from just watching and observing it. So, but Ortiz did land a pretty good body shot, a left hook to the body, a well-placed left hook to the body, right around the rib cage area. So, I'll give him credit for that. That was his best punch of the fight, probably. But this is a little quick recap, and hopefully we see Ortiz in more action-packed fights and better fights, and maybe just a little bit of karma for HBO for dropping Manny Pacquiao.